welcome to round 7 and 8 of the 2014 British GT Championship, which sees the teams cross the English Channel to the beautiful Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, a track that will test man and machine to its very limits. This amazing circuit rises and falls through the beautiful Ardennes forest, and at over 4 miles in length, for the drivers, it doesn't get any better than this.
This circuit's just something else. It's like nothing I've ever driven before. I think Alton Park's good, you know, with the elevation changes, but here is just something else. Going through a Rouge for the first time, you feel like you're taking off in an aeroplane.
Oh, it's an amazing circuit, absolutely incredible. I think the first time you go up through Eau Rouge, it's something to experience.
Obviously, Eau Rouge everyone knows, but Blanchimont is probably my personal favourite. And then overtaking into the bus stop chicane. Really do feel that ABS kicking in at the last moment, especially if you're diving down the inside of another car. Then you've really got to try and sort of throw the anchor out the side and get the thing stopped.
It's just one of those places that even when you do a bad lap, you feel good, and then when you get it right, you get a proper tingle down all through your body, and it just feels brilliant.
It's my first time here this weekend, so I've probably only driven maybe 20 laps in it, but it's incredible, so I definitely want to come back here again.
As we arrive in Belgium, it seems as though the dust has barely had a chance to settle since the last 2 dramatic races at Snetterton. Here's Martin Haven to bring us up to speed.
As we arrived at the midpoint of the season, the races at Snetterton really shuffled the pack. As usual, there was close wheel-to-wheel racing. And each race threw up a brand new winner for the season. In race 1, it was the first win by a Porsche in 2014 as Phil Keane and John Minshaw claimed a hard-fought victory. Race 2 then started with a bang. Literally, a huge crash involving Phil Drybrough, Luke Hines and Paul Bailey brought out the red flags. Eventually, though, our reigning champion Andrew Howard and his co-driver Johnny Adam took their first win of the year. A win that saw them rise to the top of the point standings, just ahead of the closely chasing pack. The lead in the GT4 standings changed, with Jake Giddings and Ross Wiley clawing their way ahead of Andrew Jarman and Devon Modell, but neither team were winners in Snetterton. In the Lotus, Oz Yusuf and Gavin Kershaw claimed the first victory, while race 2 fell to Adrian Barwick and Bradley Ellis.
It's ourselves and Beach Team, but we've got the Lotus and the Ginetta there. You know, they're now coming along and catching us up. So it's going to be a close. It's definitely going to go down to the last race, I would say. So it's going to be an interesting battle for the rest of the year for sure.
We're in it for the long game, so points make prizes.
Does that make it more exciting when you've got so much competition around you?
Yeah, I think so. It keeps everybody on their toes, but you don't want anybody running away with the championship as such, although it would be nice. Yeah, it makes it good fun. That's what we're here to do. We're here to race door to door.
Well, Spa really is an amazing place, and I'm really looking forward to these 2 races. Let's go over to Diana Binks on the grid.
So the first race of the weekend is just about to get underway here in Spa, and it has been declared a wet race, so it's caused a bit of chaos here. A lot of the guys are starting on slicks, some are starting from the pit lane, so our pole man is alongside me. I'll hand you over to Martin Haven.
Well, massive confusion on the grid, everybody trying to work out what to do. Ahmed El Hathi has come out on slicks. Dave Bartram, the team boss, saying you're effectively on pole. Marco Attard came out on wets, has already gone into the pit, so he's not on the grid. Also on wets, car number 1, Andrew Howard, the reigning champion. Now he has stayed out and gone onto the grid on those wet weather tyres. So the first of 2 formation laps behind the safety car, and it barely even looks damp here at Spa-Francorchamps. As they come through the bus stop, Andrew Howard goes into the pit lane, and he's not alone. I think a lot of drivers may well go now immediately for a slick change. There will be a second safety car lap, so that should allow anybody who wants to change tyres to do so. Now, as the safety car comes down the straight, you can see it's still slightly damp. Once this queue goes by, everybody who has already done their tyre change will be able to join on the back, led presumably by Marco Attard and the rest of the field, and then anyone else who has gone in right now will hopefully be able to join in at the back of the second safety car lap when they should go green. But at the moment, the blue and white and red and white Aston Martins, the two Motorbase Oman racing cars, are first and second, and there is massively speedy work going on there. John Minshaw leads the queue out of pit lane, so he will be the first of those who have changed their tyres. And of course, Minshaw, race winner last time out, race 1 at Snetterton. So maybe the Porsche and its team are on a bit of a high right now. Massive queue going out, of course, such a long lap here at Spa-Francorchamps, plenty of time to get them all out. Ready now to get underway. Round 7 of the Avon Tyres British GT Championship. Ahmed El Harthi and Jeff Smith in the Aston Martins first and second. 13th place, John Minshaw in the Porsche, first of those that have stopped. The white tail end in front, that's Jade Edwards in her GT4 Ginetta, and just in front, Oz Yusuf. So those two, the Lotus and the Ginetta, the top two GT4 cars, as we come through the bus stop for the final time before we go green. So the field lining up, Jade Edwards in the background, heading into the pits as our race leader, Ahmed El Harthi, and Jeff Smith, his teammate, right behind, head down to La Source for the first time. And Liam Jenkins, half the field on track and ready to go, and the other half kind of scrambling to catch up.
Indeed, and it could very well be a blessing for some of them, though. La Source, a very difficult first corner for any track, and it does mean that they can maybe avoid contact as they go down in towards Eau Rouge for the first time. Minshaw desperately trying to gain some ground.
Well, he's got by the GT4 cars, but there's been a change for second place as we ride on board with Lee Mole. Right in front of us, Chris Hoy. Hoy in 4th place at the start. Now he's towing up behind Jeff Smith. The Aston Martin moves to the right-hand side, and Hoy goes straight by with the Nissan. It is Ahmed El Harthi that leads from Yannick Malagol in that white and blue Ferrari. He's one of the teams here training and getting ready for the Spa 24 hours later next month.
And John Minshaw's progress may have been halted. He's stuck behind the 888 BMW of Derek Johnston in a very difficult part of the circuit to pass. And all problems there for Gary Eastwood's FF Corsa Ferrari. Their bad luck looks to continue.
Well, he's been hit from behind, hasn't he? Damage on the left rear. I wonder what the right front corner of Passenger Touris's Ferrari looks like. He's trying to make a pass now. Little adjustment perhaps to the traction on the steering wheel. Still looks pretty dry here. No sign of water, no wipers on. And is there a challenge coming up for the lead? See the Ferrari there in 2nd place, looking ominous. Chris Hoy in 3rd place. This could be a really good race for the Nissan team if they're this strong already. And Ahmed El Harthi, the race leader in the Aston Martin, trying to creep away from the Ferrari as Chris Hoy is kept busy by number 5, Jeff Smith. There's Steve Tandy, the Generation Racing Bentley, qualified in 20th place, and like everybody else, a little bit out of position because of going in and out of the pit lane. And Liam Gary Eastwood taking a while to get back to the pits. The tyre is still inflated, but it's making a lot of smoke.
It is indeed, and someone else who could be making a bit of a hasty charge way back to the pit lane could be Jeff Smith as he looks to try and overtake Chris Hoy. The back and forth here with John Minshaw, now desperately trying to move past the 888 BMW. He's got the number 2 of Al Masood in his sights of the big Bentley there. Now that's going to be very difficult to navigate past, especially as you make your way through the bus stop chicane, but he's going to try it anyway. You've got the McLaren there as well of David Jones, and to the outside goes the nimble little Porsche. Let's see if he can make the move stick. Not quite enough room there, but he's going to try up the inside of the McLaren, and the move there was cut short.
Well, Jones cut him off, didn't he? The Bentley went around the outside, so that was a great move by Hamid Al Masood to take 6th place, and now Minshaw with great traction out of the corner. Look in the background, the bright lights on the Bentley, and Minshaw in the Porsche trying to go the long way around the outside, really squeezes the Bentley up against the wall there, being very aggressive into the hairpin at La Source. And David Jones has got Derry Johnson to worry about further back. Ollie Basie Fisher, 6th in the GT4 class. That's Adrian Barwick, Snetterton winner in race 2, and he creeps around the outside. Great wheel-to-wheel racing. Oz Yusuf still out front in GT4 in the Lotus Evora that also won at Snetterton. So it looks as though our Snetterton winners are full of vim and vigour here at Spa-Francorchamps. Minshaw already up to 6th, and Chris Hoy desperately defending against Jeff Smith. He's got the distraction of the Ferrari in front of him, but he's also benefiting from the slipstream, so that really is a mixed blessing.
And talking of mixed blessings, that one's not quite so mixed. It's evident what the morale is going to be like in the FF Corsa garage, and some DIY going on towards the rear left-hand side of the car, and a big shame for the team that have had a little bit of bad luck since their victory at Rockingham.
The good news for co-driver Adam Carroll there, no tyre damage, no suspension damage, and it all happened at La Source as ever. Too many cars in too little racetrack, and it looks like contact perhaps with United Autosports Audi.
Adam, obviously pretty much the start of this race and your teammates had to come in. Do you know what's happened?
I think he's obviously had contact on the first lap or first corner really. We could see him go through a rouge and there was quite a lot of smoke off the back left, so we've had to pit and pull some of the back bumper off because it was rubbing against the tyre. So unfortunately we lost some time. Garrett made a great call on changing to slicks on the outlap, so it's a bit of a shame, but you know we're still in the race. We can hopefully see it through to the end.
John Minshaw now chasing Lee Mole's 888 BMW, and Mole stayed on wet weather tyres, hoping it would rain a bit more. That gamble has failed. He is losing ground fast, and you can see Minshaw is already with the Jeff Smith, Chris Hoy third place battle, and Yannick Malagol's Ferrari right in front of them. He is catching them hand over fist. My goodness, what a drive from John Minshaw.
It's evident the risk paid off, and as you go into these very tricky couple of left-handers before the Fania chicane, you've got to be so careful about the run. You don't want to be stuck on the outside as the corner tightens up so quickly, and it's evident that Jeff Smith is wanting to worry about what's in front of him.
Jeff Smith trying to attack Chris Hoy, but at the moment he's going to have to worry about John Minshaw, who's in 5th place and could easily be 3rd by the end of the lap. Minshaw catching them fast. Of course, now he's got Lee Mole behind, but Lee Mole is probably not going to be much of a challenge. He goes down the inside, takes them both at the bottom of the hill. Fantastic action from John Minshaw. Yannick Malagol in front of him is going to be gobbled up as well. Minshaw is absolutely flying, and a little bit of ground lost there by Chris Hoy. He got jumped by Jeff Smith in that action as well.
And here comes Minshaw again, though. He's not stopping for anybody. He's a man on a mission up the inside towards Blanchimont, and he's making this look ridiculously easy. And
it shows that the change onto slicks has absolutely worked for Minshaw. Round 7 of the Avantage British GT Championship at Spa. Ahmed Al Harthiar race leader, and John Minshaw, who started 13th after changing late to slicks, up in 2nd place ahead of Jeff Smith, also on slicks. Yannick Malagol behind, then Chris Hoy and the rest of the field. Well, they've been caught past so fast by John Minshaw, you've got to assume that most of them stayed on wets on the grid. And that is looking like it was a poor call. They are going to have to now try and hang on until the driver pit window opens, or they'll risk having to throw away a racing pit stop. On board with Passin Latouras, and of course now these cars are going to start struggling for grip. Braking, cornering, accelerating is going to be harder and harder.
Some of these drivers, of course, having more experience than others. It's all going to come down to how well you know your car and how confident you are in these very difficult conditions.
As the leader flashed through shot, there is the 2nd place Porsche, John Minshaw, 3rd place Aston Martin of Jeff Smith. And it's up now to our race leader to try and stay away. And for these drivers behind, as we see the battle for 4th, Yannick Malagol, Chris Hoy and Colin White trying to look up the inside of the Olympic champion. They are just going to have to manage the tyres as much as possible.
On board with Passin Latouras, so, and look at that train building. This midfield could not be more tighter as Latouras now tries desperately to get past the Barwell run. A Curia Cost 79 car and almost makes a bit of contact.
Almost? He did make a bit of contact. That's Marco Attard, of course, who should have started the race on pole. And this is what happens at Spa when the weather's always a bit questionable. You pays your money, you takes your choice. Sometimes you're a hero, sometimes it doesn't work out when you gamble. Lee Mole dropped down to 8th place now as Paul Bailey has gone by in the Aston Martin, and Mole, as you can see, just giving up hundreds of metres in this straight. He is so much on the wrong tyre. The problem with the wet weather tyre in these conditions is much softer rubber. It's got tread blocks that squirm around. It feels like you're driving on jelly instead of on rubber, and it's got no grip either. It'll be overheating dreadfully, and you can see already that one of the Bentleys has dropped into the pits because he can't take it any longer. Lee Mole getting passed here again by Passin Latouras, who's now up to 10th place, but the Ferrari can't stop and turn either. And through goes Marco Attard. One moment of indecision and everybody swamps you. Yannick Malagol and Colin White through Eau Rouge, and that must feel absolutely vile on used wets. Then Johnson, Bailey and Hoy. On board now with Rick Parfitt Jr., Paul McNeely in front of us, 6th and 7th in the GT4 class. Just in front of the Aston Martin, Ross Wiley, and in front of him the Lotus of Oz Yusuf. Down the inside into the hairpin at La Source. Fully arms crossed, nicely controlled, and the battle is still on. Bumping up and down in his seat like a go-karter as he goes through the gears. Rick Parfitt desperate to find that extra inch of speed. Nothing between these Ginettas, and he decides that maybe 2x2 into Eau Rouge isn't the best way in, that he's going to take the way out as the car in front, Paul McNeely, goes right off the track and still loses that position, but he's now going to slipstream up the hill behind Rick Parfitt, so the battle may not be over.
And that Century Motorsport car, of course, needs a big result today after some dismal luck so far this season. But one car whose fortunes has turned around has been that Lotus Evora. A great victory last time round, and brilliant to see it performing so well.
Battle for fourth is now between Colin White and Derek Johnston. We've lost that white and blue Ferrari of Yannick Malagol. He's had an incident somewhere, and chasing behind, Jody Firth coming up the order as well. So there is Colin White, Derek Johnston. The white Aston Martin, that's Paul Bailey. Then Jody Firth, the black and orange Porsche, also coming fast up the order on slick tyres. Marco Attard battles with Passin Latouras, and that is the battle for 8th and 9th. And on board in 9th place with Passin Latouras.
He tried to get a much better run, didn't he, coming out of the bus stop chicane, but I think on those tyres it's very difficult to do. The grip's not quite there, you can't push the car as much as you'd like, and you're left really just fighting off the scraps of other cars.
Tried to twitch to the inside to try and fake out Marco Attard. I don't think Attard was having any of that. Look how relaxed the driver looks, bearing in mind he's accelerating hard into 3 figures, flapping up and down the gearbox into Eau Rouge, one of the most awesome corners on the planet. Just looks so smooth when they are relaxed.
And one man who may not be relaxed right now could very well be Colin White. He's under a lot of pressure in that battle for 4th position. Look behind as well. The Aston Martin of Paul Bailey under again. Jody Firth all over the back of him, swoops to the inside, and that should be signed, sealed, delivered into Lacombe. Indeed it is. And the Aston is struggling, and now the Acura-Cost BMW looks to try and make a pass.
It looks as though the Aston is in trouble with its tyres. Passin Latouras on the back of this queue, still in 9th, but Jody Firth has moved up to 6th. And look at the Nissan there. Chris Hoy was up into 2nd at the start, remember. His wet weather tyres have gone right off the boil, and I'm sure he is going to drop like a stone now. GT4 leader Andrew Jarman out of sight as we join the battle for 2nd place. Ollie Basie-Fisher with alongside us Alexander Sherpen, and this is all the way up the long, very steep Kemmel straight where a slipstream from the car in front is so useful. Basie-Fisher moves by him, the Lotus right behind in 4th place, and then just behind them Rick Parfitt Jr. As you said, Rick Parfitt with no luck other than bad luck, but looking very competitive here at Spa, right over the curbs and on the back of the Lotus of Oz Yusuf. And Chris Hoy continues to struggle. Phil Driver is Aston Martin trying to go around the outside, and the Ferrari number 13, John Dillon, waiting to pick the pieces out of that one as well. Colin White still holding on in front of Derek Johnson, then Jody Firth, orange and black, then Marco Attard, black and blue, then Passin Latouras, and so on, all the way down the order. And Latouras dropping away from that group in front now. Looks like he might be starting to run out of tyres too.
But it's very easy to catch back up those who are going towards the bus stop chicane. Colin White again fending off an attack, and look at Jody Firth all round the outside trying to hold on against the Acura-Cost, and now Latouras gains back just like we speculated. Up the inside he goes, will be on the outside of La Source as he tries to have a drag race with the 2nd track speed Porsche. Will it win it or no is another option entirely. Oh, and a bit of contact there, and the Acura-Cost says thank you very much. And Marco Attard may have a slight smile on his face.
He won't, because he's gone off very wide indeed. Now he outbraked himself as the Ferrari and the Porsche came to blows, and Latouras between the Porsche and the pit wall. That was a very narrow gap, but he squeezed himself through. That's ballsy stuff. Now, can he hold it on the road? Yes, he does. Leaves a lot of rubber there while he's doing so.
So a replay of what just happened, then going in towards the bus stop chicane. Jody Firth pushing that poor BMW to the very limits, allows the Thuras to say thank you very much. He thinks he's got the drive of a lifetime going down into the La Source hairpin, but little would he know, it all sorts of unfolds in a very different manner. Tries to outbrake Jody Firth, a bit of a nudge, and the Kyriakos in return just goes a bit too deep into the corner, loses the back end, and that allows the Thuras to go for probably one of the most gutsiest moves of his career so far. Young 20-year-old definitely showing his nerve on the run down to Eau Rouge.
Yeah, that second pit entry wall was coming up towards him very fast as he tried to make room. Well, great stuff by Passin Latouras. Colin White still defending hard this time, though maybe not hard enough. Oh, he just holds off Derek Johnson's black BMW. In the GT4 class, second Ollie Basie-Fisher, then Alexander Sherpen and Ross Wiley in the Aston Martin, third and fourth. Rick Parfitt Jr. there in fifth place. He's got by the white and blue Lotus of Oz Yusuf, who's now down to sixth. And Yusuf having 2 attempts to get round the hairpin. And that smacks to me of tyres that aren't working well as Ross Wiley lines up Alexander Sherpen. Again, I think we're still seeing the differences here between the right and the wrong tyre choices on the grid.
Back on board with Rick Parfitt Jr. just coming out of Eau Rouge, and look how much more confident he looked. He's egging his car on. He wants a good result here today, and so does Ross Wiley, the young Scotsman, to the inside of Lecombe, and that should be a trademark manoeuvre. Indeed it is, and the Aston Martin moves up another position.
Again, using the slipstream up that steep Kemmel Straight, and of course the horsepower of that Aston Martin engine as well. Still the battle for fourth. Colin White ahead of the black BMW of Derek Johnson, Passin Latouras in the Ferrari, the orange and black Porsche of Jody Firth, and then Francois Perrodo in the next Ferrari along. And they are now catching the GT4 Ginetta, the green and white car of Jade Edwards, who we saw stopping earlier for slicks. But of course these GT3 cars are quicker. Flash of the headlights from the Ginetta. Colin White gets through. Jade Edwards has to make the corner somehow. Jody Firth under attack from the Ferrari right at the back of the queue. Francois Perrodo nearly got by the Porsche, got held off. Through goes Derek Johnson, Passin Latouras with him. Jody Firth, the black nose of the Porsche as the Ferrari cuts to the inside. He's going to try and put the Ginetta between them. He can't. Jody Firth takes the racing line and just holds on. This is fantastic racing, and another pass there as you saw the #1 Beechstein Aston Martin pick up a spot from the Kyriakos BMW of Marco Attard. So there are places changing all the way down the field. It's a lap charter's nightmare. It's a race fan's heaven.
Could be Colin White's purgatory though, as he's stuck in the middle. Not sure whether it's heaven or hell, depending on how much longer he can keep that charging BMW at bay. The queue starts to build, and you've got to wonder that could be another factor in this soon, as Passin Latouras looks increasingly aggressive.
And for everyone in this queue, it's getting longer, and that's bad news. Ahmed El Harthi, though, I'm sure if he knew what was going on behind, would be delighted at the moment. On the right tyres from the start, he is making hay while the sun shines, or at least while the rain stays away. So there is Ross Wiley, third in the GT4 class. Alexander Sherpen, though, is not giving up without a fight. Round 7 of the British GT Championship at Spa. Fourth place Colin White just ahead of the wheel-to-wheel battle. The Ferrari of Passin Latouras, number 29, trying to get by Derek Johnson's black BMW, and Johnson goes off as they go around the double left-hander at Pouon. So he loses 3 places there. Jody Firth's Porsche and the Ferrari of Francois Perrodo go through. That's a classic Pouon error, just carrying in too much speed. Mistake there by Paul McNeely. He loops it around at the hairpin at La Source, outbraking himself. Looks like the co-drivers are getting ready to take over.
So here's an update of what just happened, what we presume to happen at least, to the number 48 Ginetta, and yeah, he spun all on his own just coming out of La Source. And you've got a feeling the tyres could have something to do with it. Here's how Derek Johnston went wide. So Latouras goes up the inside of him, then going in towards Pouon. Again, Latouras on a charge today. And I think Johnston may just run out of road and slightly have a bit of a twitch. Tries to outbrake and just runs straight on. There's no grip at that corner, and when the tyres are that used, you just start to struggle.
Tough work for the drivers, but great for the fans. Andrew Howard's Aston Martin with the blue and white up the inside. takes 9th place from Paul Bailey, Marco Attard and Steve Tandy in the Bentley behind as another battle shapes up. This is for 6th position. The Porsche versus the Ferrari. Jody Firth with the black nose staying right down on the racing line as Francois Perrodo leaps from side to side, and that has allowed Derek Johnson to catch right up with him. This queue now goes from 4th down to 12th position. Could be very entertaining, and Colin White still at the front of it, still in 4th in that Ginetta. He's had various different challenges, and I think the stiffest challenge will come from Passan Latouras as Michael Caine gets ready to take over the race-leading car, and he should come in with a very sizable advantage. Passan Latouras looks very quick in that Ferrari, looking to go around the long way on the outside at Les Combes, can't quite get the overlap he needs. Again, Colin White, astonishing defence. There's your race leader. Ahmad El Harthi now about 8 seconds clear of John Minshaw. The gap has not shrunk at all, and Minshaw is similarly safe, it seems, from 3rd place, Jeff Smith. Nothing safe in this queue, though. And again, look at the Ginetta. You can see it writhing around on its worn tyres, and he is really under pressure. But he's been doing such a great job in defence, Colin White. Passan Latouras been very aggressive and very clean as well in his overtakes.
He has indeed, and as they go through Poor, now you can just see how difficult Colin White's defence is becoming, because those, as you said earlier, those tyres are starting to slip away. Latouras, who's getting more and more confident in that AF Corsa, is starting to feel it, and again getting as close as humanly possible, but he's got to be careful the hunter doesn't become the hunted.
And of course the other man who's made load of overtakes, John Minshaw in 2nd place, but Jody Firth looking strong in his Porsche as well. This is clearly a track that suits the Porsche as well. GT4 battle here, this is for 2nd. Ross Wiley in the Aston Martin right behind us as we sit on board with Ollie Basie-Fisher. And out of the complex at Les Combes, down to Rivage, into the pit lane comes the first of our front runners to stop. So out from 3rd place, Jeff Smith. And here comes Passan Latouras. Is he going to grab 4th? He is not at the bus stop. And again, the Ginetta where it needs to be, very slow off the corner, but into the pit lane. Oh, and that's damaged the nose of Jody Firth's Porsche, has it? I'm not sure. Half of them have come in, half of them haven't, and it does look like there's damage to Passan Latouras' car. He has been hit from behind, and that was by Jody Firth. Loses a place to Derek Johnson, loses a place as well to Francois Perrodo. And look, just like the car of Gary Eastwood, bodywork knocks against the tyre, and there's the damage on the front of Jody Firth's car. Well, that is the drama at the bus stop, with people attacking, people defending, and others trying to cut across the road and get into the pit lane, like Gary Eastwood's Ferrari right at the beginning of the race. The bodywork shoved against the tyre. It'll smell horrible, it'll feel horrible. Hopefully it won't have done any damage other than bodywork, and that can be attacked with gaffer tape. Out goes the number 5 car, the first of our front runners. You can see the Acuria Cos car getting ready to go, and the United Autosports Audi as well. Now that could come back into the equation, because they're being pushed back as well, and they're going to go out in front of the Acuria Cos BMW.
And that's not the ideal start to Alexander Sims' stint. Of course, the Barwell Motorsport Acuria Cos team also carry a weight penalty. And in comes the Nissan of Sir Chris Hoy. He'll hand over to the GT Academy 2012 winner of Wolfgang Wright. And out comes Sir Chris Hoy. Not a bad stint, but it could have been so much better if they'd just made the right tyre choice. And there is your GT4 class leader.
Andrew Jarman handing over to Devon Modell as Warren Hughes parks the Porsche at the side of the track. Its water escaped in that shunt. Coming into the bus stop just before the pit stop. Watch the 3rd car, the orange and black Porsche. Whether he's planning to go in or not doesn't matter. The door shuts. He rams Passan Latouras. All the water escapes right there. That is the end of their race. Race leader on pit road. Now Ahmad El Harthi started at the front, the right tyres, the right conditions, ran away and hid, hands over a perfect car and a huge lead to Michael Caine. And the Oman Racing team looking for win number 3. Tom Sharp in the Ginetta goes off at Les Combes. Matt Bell in the Audi. Both of these cars fresh out of the pits. There's Alexander Sims in the blue and black car. Oh, and Phil Driver and John Gore's Aston has broken down. Now, that might have just come straight out of the pits and into retirement. That's the bottom of the hill at Eau Rouge.
Being wheeled out there was your GT4 Lotus Evora. So out comes Gavin Kershaw, followed by Tom Oliphant. Now, Tom, having just got into the car after taking over from Rick Parfitt Jr., will be hoping to get that Century Motorsport some big points this afternoon, as will Michael Caine. Now there is the damaged 29 Ferrari of Laduras, and that must have felt like an hour and a half driving around Spa to get that car back to the pit lane.
Well, hopefully only the bodywork will be damaged like Gary Eastwood's Ferrari earlier as Richard Lyons gets in. Michael Caine leading the race, climbs the Kemmel Straight. Where's the second place Porsche? There it is. Where's his teammate? Ahmed El-Hathi is in the pit lane. He's with Diana Binks.
So a good start to the race. Obviously you made the right call on the tyre choice for there.
Yeah, it was a team decision, to be honest, right at the end, and it was a perfect decision. We benefited from the others picking the wrong tyres, and it was a cautious approach initially, and the track just kept getting quicker and quicker. It's always difficult in conditions like this, but I'm really happy. I mean, we qualified second. I was disappointed, but it turned out to be better.
Well, they only paid points for the race, and he's doing pretty well in that. Last few pit stoppers, there's Matt Nicol-Jones heading back out in the 55 Ginetta to the GT4 race. And here's the lead battle. Jake Giddings chasing Devon Modell. The Aston Martin's out front. Devon's teammate is with Diana.
On the outlap, we knew that it was going to be dry, so made the decision to change onto slicks. The team did a brilliant job to get us out. I think we went out in fourth and we qualified third, so we only lost a place. And then I knew the first sort of 4 or 5 laps were critical, so I just pushed as hard as I possibly could. And I think we had 12 seconds advantage by then, and went off a little bit towards the end. But I think we lost some time in the pit stop, which is disappointing. So I think it's a close battle for first and second again. So
Aston's looking good in GT4 and GT3 as Derek Johnson hands over the 888 BMW to Luke Hines, and there is your race leader. Michael Caine going by the battle for 5th in GT4. Tom Oliphant's Ginetta ahead of the white and blue Lotus of Gavin Kershaw. That's in 6th position, and just in front of them into Eau Rouge, still fresh out of the pits, Matt Nicol-Jones. 4th place in the GT4 class. Always a bit of a worry into Eau Rouge flat out for the first time. Look, he's cinching up the seatbelts extra tight. There's Alexander Sherpen in the Ginetta, top of the hill at Les Combes. He's 3rd in the GT4 class. And of course the GT3 Aston Martin bar race lead is going to gobble them up, even up this steep hill. Phil Keen's Porsche, though, is starting to close in from behind, but as the Lotus tries to make a pass on the Ginetta for 5th in GT4 behind the leader, that'll hold him up.
And there goes Johnny Adam already round the outside of the McLaren of Jones and sets his sights on the Bentley a bit further forward. There goes Matt Bell attacking the 29A, of course, the Ferrari of Richard Lyons. Just behind them, the car that pretty much caused this whole massive traffic jam, now under control of Tom Sharp. Back the GT4 leader, that's now Jake Giddings trying to attack Devon Modell. Very, very tricky to do on that part of the circuit. He's got to bide his time and think carefully. Still plenty of racing left, and these two cars so evenly matched. It's all going to come down to driver ability.
Of course, tyres have played a big factor as well. Lee Mole in this BMW was right up at the sharp end, looking for a place on the podium on wet weather tyres in the opening couple of laps, but when they faded, so did their hopes. Joe Osborne down in 19th place as our GT4 battle rages on. Diana's at Beach Dean.
The start of the race was just crazy because the GT3 cars were starting behind us, and I think I lost a bit of track position, but at the end of my stint I think we got up to P3 and we're now in P2, so hopefully we can challenge for the win.
How was the pit stop?
I think we gained a little bit on pit stop, although when I came in the pit stop was pretty busy. The pits were rather busy, so I think we gained a little bit, but we'll see at the end of the race.
Well, both class leaders are together at the moment. Michael Caine, the first of our Aston Martins, then Devon Modell, Jake Giddings, that's the GT4 battle, then the Porsche, that's 2nd overall and 2nd in the GT3 class. Phil Keen still closing the gap to Michael Caine, but this battle in front might have him drumming his fingers on the dashboard in disgust as he tries to find a way through the 2 Aston Martins. Gonna have to be bold. Splits the difference there into Eau Rouge, and he should clear Devon Modell on the exit and up the hill. Out he comes, and the target is still in sight. Michael Caine climbing the Kemmel Straight to Les Combes. So Phil Keen bringing the gap down. Michael Caine still leads though. Rory Butcher in 3rd in the 2nd. Oman Racing Aston at the bottom of the hill. It looks as though we are fast approaching our conclusion here in Spa. Our lead battle at Spa is now not 8 seconds apart, it's not even 0.8 of a second apart. Michael Caine from Phil Keane by a car length at the top of the hill. Rory Butcher still in third in the second Oman Racing Aston Martin. And the GT4 lead battle is still just as close. Devin Modell's white Aston ahead of the Beech Dean car of Jake Giddings. That is first and second in the class. Fantastic racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. The weather has had its effect, but again we have come down to some electrifying action. Headlights flashing on the BMW. Luke Hines goes inside 407, that's Jake Giddings, and through comes the Beech Dean #1 Aston Martin, Johnny Adam. They're battling for 10th as they go by the GT4 second place car. That has broken up that GT4 lead battle.
So whilst Beech Dean sort of mixed emotions about there, they've got one battle that's kind of faded away and one that's just started to come into play, as Johnny Adam will be doing everything in his power to try and recover that Beech Dean to some big playing points if he can just get his way past that BMW.
Now if he hones up Devin Modell, then that will work out nicely. Back with our race leaders. Phil Keane losing a little ground on the power section of the circuit to the long-legged Aston Martin. But the Porsche, after struggling early this season, won last time out at Snetterton and is looking strong here again in the hands of John Minshaw and now again in the hands of Phil Keane, carving up towards the leader into the bus stop. Now, has he got a tyre advantage? And if he has, where can he use that extra traction, that extra braking? Closes up in the tight and twisty stuff. And of course, now we come to the slowest corner on the circuit, down to the right-handed hairpin into La Source, both on slick tyres as they have been since the beginning of the race. So the early advantage for the Aston Martin has now been gobbled up by the Porsche. We have a genuine wheel-to-wheel race down into Eau Rouge. Michael Caine is going to be tough to pass, but Phil Keane has the advantage here of the slipstream, which you don't get at the Snetterton circuit. Their straight's not long enough. The Kemmel straight here is, and around the outside he comes.
So in towards Le Combe then, it's going to be a drag race round the outside. Michael Caine's positioned his car perfectly for the defence, but he can't outbrake the nimble Porsche. And Track Speed look like they could be the second double winning team this season.
Well, it's going to be fantastic all the way to the checkered flag. That battle shows no signs of ending. Johnny Adam has got by the BMW of Luke Hines for 9th place. And a lot of cars out of position compared to where they qualified. But plenty of racing still to be dealt with.
So Johnny Adam has indeed passed the AAA BMW. If he can stay there, then that should be mission accomplished. But there's still the looming threat of not only the Bentley, but one of the AF Corsa Ferraris as well. So still plenty of action left here. And in GT4, as Jake Giddings tries desperately to put that Beech Dean Aston in front of the TF Sport being driven by Devin Modell, two very evenly paced cars, and he has to try and get an advantage going down the Kemmel Straight after Eau Rouge. And on board with Tom Oliphant in the Century Motorsports Ginetta, a much better performance in recent weeks. A couple of podiums, they're looking for a third one here today, and it's great to see that season finally turn a corner. And unfortunately, bad luck seems to be striking another team. That's Dan Camish in his Porsche, suffering a penalty.
Quick stop and go for them. Meanwhile, battle for 12th place. Aaron Scott's Ferrari ahead of the black 888 car of Luke Hines. Richard Abra going the long way round the outside at the bus stop. Carried the speed in well in that Aston Martin. He picks up 14th position. Bentley of James Appleby in 11th, leading that little group. They are catching him. Richard Abra, another Aston Martin going very well here at Spa-Francorchamps.
The tables could well be turning in GT4 as Jake Giddings is looking excessively more dangerous round the outside into the bus stop, and that's going to be closed off. And all big problems there for Matt Nicol-Jones. Up in smoke goes the Academy Motorsports Ginetta, and that is a real shame after what was looking to be a promising race.
Was in 4th place in the class, on board with our race leader, and dense smoke in front. Let's hope there's no oil down from that engine blower. Yellow flag's being waved to warn him of the trouble. You might be aware that there's a problem in front. He comes through safely, but of course they both have to lift off, he and Michael Caine in 2nd place.
So a replay of what's happened to Matt Nicol-Jones then, riding on board with him, and all of a sudden a big puff of smoke. Yeah, it's race over there, a real shame for Matt Nicol-Jones. I think his main priority will be making sure it all clears up.
Engine has blown.
Tough break for Matt Nicol-Jones. See how disappointed he is as we get ready to head on to the final lap at Spa-Francorchamps. And the lead battle, Phil Keen's Porsche ahead of the Aston Martin of Michael Caine. Now, who has got anything left in the tank? Phil Keen clears the GT4 Ginetta. Caine catches it right in the middle of the corner, but at least it's a slow corner. If he can drive around the inside or the outside, he can keep that battle alive. And the GT4 race may be decided by inches rather than feet. Devon Modell holding off the smoky Jake Giddings, who lays massive black marks off the corners as he chases the throttle, and he's got a run going here. Now, can he hold it together? Through Pouon, he had the little run going into Pif Paf though. It is Devon Modell's all-white car that stays in front, but a twitch shows just how hard he is pushing. And still the Beechstein Aston is smoking. The other Beechstein car, Johnny Adam, trying to attack Andy Schultz for 9th place, the championship leaders. James Appleby's Bentley under attack as well. Aaron Scott in the Ferrari and Richard Abra in the red and black Aston Martin, hovering around the back of him as they squabble over 11th. It's 3 wide exiting the corner. Ooh, that needs to sort itself out. I think Aaron Scott has got the drive, but I think the Bentley might have the speed and the presence to dominate the corner. Is he going to stick it on the inside, James Appleby? Yes! Aaron Scott has to give him a fraction, and that leaves Richard Abra with the advantage up the hill. Andy Schultz in the white Aston. Right behind him, Johnny Adam trying to claw another couple of points into the bag for the championship leaders. Can't get around there at Les Combes. Still got about 5 miles to go.
A frantic final scene here at Spa, and still Jake Giddings. His work is not done yet. He's looking to the inside of the source, making his intention very clear, but they've got to let GT3 traffic through, and that is one of the big challenges that these GT4 drivers face. And now there's a Lotus in the equation, and a very nervous John Minshaw awaits his teammate to pick up their 2nd victory of the season. Just a few more corners to keep that from happening, and I don't think Michael Caine's going to catch them in time.
Phil Keen sees the checkered flag. Win number 2 of the season for the Demon Tweaks Porsche. Track speed, do it again. Snetterton and Spa, victories for them, and 2nd place for Michael Caine. 3rd for the Oman Racing Aston Martin at the background of Rory Butcher, and it looks as though it's going to be 1st and now 3rd for the Aston Martins. Devon Modell's white Aston is going to win GT4, or is it? Gavin Kershaw in the Lotus has already got by the smoky Jake Giddings on the last lap and is now challenging as they run to the flag. Surely he can't overtake the Aston. Devon Modell wins it by inches from Gavin Kershaw. Jake Giddings in 3rd. And a bit of a collective sigh of relief from the TF Sport team. They clung on for victory. Well, post-race, the Lotus docked 10 seconds for causing an avoidable accident, leaving a GT4 Aston 1-2. 3rd place for Jeff Smith and Rory Butcher, their best result of the season, but it's win number 2 for John Minshaw and Phil Keen.
As I was catching him, I could see where he was slow, and he wasn't particularly quick for Rouge and down the straight, so I got a run on him. I knew he'd defend, so just managed it around the outside, and Porsche is very good on the brakes, so he didn't make it very difficult.
We were faster in Sector 2 and Sector 3 when we pushed hard, but lugging that old thing up the hill, it's just, it just showed. We lose a second on the run up to turn 3, and you just can't do that. So there was physically no point in me even fighting him. We're moving up there at such a fair rate of knots. Unfortunately, everybody a bit faster than us, but he was always going to get past me.
It wasn't particularly hard for me because Jeff did all the hard work at the start, and the hardest part of the race was probably the team's decision to go for the slick tyres. And it was a really late call. It was just as other cars were leaving pit lane, we decided to go for the slicks, and it just turned out to be the right one.
Will needed to get back on the top step. It's been a while since the first round. It was a hard race. It was a very hard race. The other Aston pushed us right till the end, and then the Lotus joined in right till the last corner. It wasn't safe till we crossed the line. I'd like a safer race, but it's fun like that, and I think you all enjoyed watching it.
So win number 2 of the season for the Demon Tweaks Porsche team. Can they do it again here in Spa? Fortunately for race 2, the weather made tyre choice a little more straightforward. It was dry, so it was slicks, with Alexander Sims in the Acuria Cos BMW leading the field away from pole position. And as they fanned out and filled his mirrors, he concentrated on the braking area and swept through the hairpin at La Source. The BMW's lead lasted until the top of the Kemmel Straight. In the slipstream, the Nissan of Wolfgang Reip pulled out around the outside to grab the lead. In GT4, Snetterton Race 1 winner Gavin Kershaw picked up the early lead from the charging Porsche of Dan Camish. Disaster struck at Eau Rouge. A suspension failure pitching Tom Sharp heavily into the barriers. The damage was substantial. The safety car was scrambled to allow the driver and car to be recovered. Sharp, fortunately, unharmed. Under the safety car, Richard Amber's Aston unfortunately hit the back of Matt Bell's Audi, leaving both cars damaged. A further safety car period was triggered by the demise of the 888 BMW of Derek Johnston. At the restart, Chris Hoy was left in the Nissan trying to hold off Marco Attard in the Ecuria Cost BMW. Attard was on a mission. Having failed to capitalise on race 1 pole, this time he'd make no mistakes. He sliced by Sir Chris Hoy to take the lead of the race, a lead that he would hold all the way to the checkered flag. Win number 2 of the season for the delighted Ecuria Cost team. Reversing their fortunes from race 1, Ross Wiley and Jake Giddings claimed victory in the Aston Martin, extending their championship lead. Big change of fortune for Warren Hughes, Jody Firth, Gary Eastwood and Adam Carroll. And a big day for Sir Chris Hoy, with Wolfgang Reip finishing in second place on the podium behind our winners.
Alexander did a great job. I mean, the Nissan did so well, you know, they're ahead. And, you know, it was great. There were loads of incidents, but it was, you know, it's pretty straightforward for me. Once I got past Chris, you know, that was okay. And, you know, it was just getting your head down and going on for it.
It was so tense because we're sitting back in the safety car, we're getting the information through, and I just didn't know when the safety car was going to be coming out. Wolfie did such an amazing job to lead the race, to get the car in such a great position, but to have 2 safety cars, it didn't really help us, and it was just like, you know, let's hang on in the first ever podium. I'm really excited.
A win apiece for our top 2 in GT4, but second place in race 1 helps Giddings and Wiley creep away from their rivals. Johnny Adam and Andrew Howard slump from the lead to third place. We have a new overall championship leader in Marco Attard.
What an exciting end to the weekend here at Spa-Francorchamps. And isn't it great to see Sir Chris Hoy on the podium alongside race winners Marco Attard and Alexander Sims. But while they enjoy their champagne moment, join us again next time out at Brands Hatch. See you there.